over in different countries, in different continents, in different time zones, in different conditions, in different profiles. We extend you a very warm welcome on 8th of December at 1:30 p.m. Indian Standard Time in a wonderful sunny day and wonderful sunny afternoon. We extend a very warm welcome to all of you. Let's have some deliberations, some conversation with Lieutenant General KJ Singh sir, who's a very eminent scholar, speaker, decorated soldier. He is PVSM, AVSM bar veteran, and at present, in the present assignment, he's a commissioner, Haryana State Information, and formerly he is the former Army Commander, Western Command, that is from Indian Army. We extend a very hearty welcome to sir this afternoon. I quickly share 3-4 slides with all of you, ladies and gentlemen. This entire series, what we are doing is making education relevant. Today is 415th webinar, and by 31st December, we will complete 500 webinars during this pandemic, totally dedicated to education, where we have got a global confluence of educators, technocrats, skill developer, professionals, and of course, corporate sector and eminent people like Lieutenant General KJ sir. Today, he's going to talk with all of us on a very important subject. The dream project of Honorable Prime Minister of India, the 5 pillars of the self-reliant India, the economy, the infrastructure, the system, the demography, and the demand. So what is the road ahead? How do we proceed? How do we go by? What bold reforms are required? What is the need of the hour? And how India will become Atma Nirbhar Bharat? Now, on behalf of International Chamber for Service Industry, ICSI, like doctors, nurses, paramedical people, they are doing great job during this pandemic. Now things are shaping up better, but as the situation had moved in between, it was quite deepened and quite difficult at that point of time. So, ladies and gentlemen, we only pray that world should get to a better order. But second challenge beside health is the education sector. Education ecosystem, when we talk about 1.86 billion children are at present away from schools, colleges, universities, institutions. And it is a great warriorship of all the teachers, educators. They are struggling. Imagine the time of month of March, and now everybody has got now used to technology, flipped learning, blended learning, digital learning, outside classroom learning, technology-based learning, and they're imparting, I'm not saying teaching, I'm saying learning, because the new education policy is totally learning centric. What is the outcome of learning? They are not focusing on teaching. So heartiest congratulations to Honorable Prime Minister of India, Education Minister of India, and all of them. They're doing great job. And 29th of July, they have given the new education policy to India. Now our chamber is live 12 hours every day, and we are organizing almost 25 webinars per week. And we are trying to facilitate and do the hand-holding of anybody. And it's a wonderful experience. I think we wouldn't have reached so many times. It's a blessing in disguise. You should take this particular pandemic. Early morning, when it is around 5:30 in India, we are in Australia, we are in Fiji and New Zealand. Thereafter, we come to ASEAN. Thereafter, we go to Middle East. Then we go to Central Asia. Then we come to South Asia. Then we come to India. And from there, in the evening, we move to United States, Canada, and Europe, and sometime Latin America as well with a special program. So, ladies and gentlemen, here's the total canvas. What we have got, 25 programs. We are taking care of youth, teachers, educators, counselors, principals, technocrats, Ayurveda, MSME, India, ASEAN, and Swami Vivekananda's teaching, water management strategies from Singapore. And besides that, something very interesting from 14th of December to 31st of December. Now, this is something very important for all the youth to understand. When we say making education relevant, so 14th December to 31st December, as we move into the new year, we will be organizing 2 week festivities for you online, of course, and that is with the Media Entertainment Skill Council, where every youth we want to participate in a very vibrant way. It is music for education. Music for education, whether arts or commerce or science, because unless we don't make education interesting and relevant. So, ladies and gentlemen, during the last 6 months plus, what we have gathered from the world over, there's a new order for the world. The B2B is no more business to business, it is back to basics, and that is going to be the future sustainable development. The new golden triangle, when you talk about, is your basic food, your basic health, and your basic education. That's what is the most important. And whatsoever human mind can conceive and believe it can achieve, let's come together. Let's make education relevant for all of us. We are privileged this afternoon. We are having very honorable, distinguished guest with us, Lieutenant General KJ Singh, sir. As I mentioned earlier, he is the Commissioner of Haryana State Information. He is the former Army Commander from the Western Command, and after retirement, he was advisor to Honorable Chief Minister, and he is currently Haryana State Information Commissioner. He is a member Chandigarh Advisory Council and Panchkula Development Committee. Panchkula is a part of Haryana. People, those are watching from abroad, you should know about it. Held Maharaja Ranjit Singh Chair in Punjab University. He is a regular columnist and commentator. Ladies and gentlemen, he is one of the most outstanding, decorated, warm, always with intellectual, cerebrum warmth, and he shares more and more. And there's so much to learn from him all the times. With these words, ladies and gentlemen, join me in extending a very hearty welcome to Lieutenant General KJ Singh, sir, this afternoon. Pleasure to have you with us, sir. Thank you for sparing your time and thanks for being with us this afternoon.
Thank you, Gulshan ji, and grateful for this platform and also very kind and generous introduction that you have given for me. Basically, friends, I am a simple soldier who comes from backwaters of India, what we describe as Bharat. I initially studied in a Hindi, which is uh, our language, India's language, medium school, and later went to only military school, which was a public school. And thereafter, from 1966 onwards, I have been in some way or the other in uniform and public service. So let's get on to the topic for the today, which is Atma Nirbhar Bharat. Now, people who are abroad uh, don't focus too much on the term itself. The basic sense of this term, we'll try and bring it across to you. Atma Nirbhar is a word which is in Hindi, which is not something which is totally new to Indian concepts. It was laid down in our Vedas and Puranas, which were our ancient learning and scriptures, and in Asas Panth, in Asas Panth, which is a form of learning, it was defined, it was said that societies must strive to become Atma Nirbhar. So every time when I say Atma Nirbhar, please try and relate it to self-reliance. It is nothing but a, a sort of nuanced kind of understanding of the concept of self-reliance. We have a similar word again in our language in Hindi, which is swavlamban, being dependent on your own self. And then this Atmanirbhar and combination, I would like to say, is something like self-reliance. So obviously the question arises, is it completely being reliant on yourself? Is it self-sufficiency? Are you meaning to say that people should get into their own cells and their own closed little quarters and just sort of stop interacting with each other? No, it's not exactly that. It basically is not isolationist in its approach. It is empowering in its approach. You empower people with a sense that they can and you create an ecosystem wherein most of the demands and needs of that particular society, that village, that community are met within that system, and dependency on others is reduced. Now, our Honorable Prime Minister and Dr. Gulshan had brought out in his wonderful presentation in one of the slides, he has defined 5 basic criteria for this, which are economy. Without a strong and resilient economy, you cannot be self-reliant. Infrastructure. Infrastructure is all-inclusive. It includes surface communication, roads, rail, metros. It also includes air. It also includes sea, inland water transport, and digital connectivity. And today, people are even talking of health silk roads. That your public health is also part of infrastructure. So you need a strong, vibrant, and resilient kind of infrastructure. And allow me to tell you, I have operated in situations where in Sikkim there was a massive earthquake. And when that happened, we had to fall back on non-traditional infrastructure and communications which were available. So you need to have redundancies, you need to have, because the nature has a habit of testing, like it is doing now in pandemic. You need to have a system which works. Now system, there can be many questions. Should it be democratic? Should it be like what China has? Or should it be a combination? And which system works the best? One really can't say. Jury is out. Every society has to make its own traditional and non-traditional systems functional, make them relevant, and work around them. We cannot impose our one system on the other society. We have to work our own systems, and we have to apply them. It's also important that these systems constantly get refined and get updated. So today questions are being raised. People are saying that Chinese system is more efficient. And on the other side, people are saying that American system is more sort of relevant. So jury is out. One cannot, it may be early to take a call on that. And every society will have to work out their own system. But whichever system is there, it has to be inclusive. It has to work on a feedback system, and it has to strive to give the maximum to all segments of society. In India, we have a concept of Antodaya. Antodaya means the weakest section of society has to be also empowered. If you give them their due, then that is the measure, because strength of the chain is measured at the weakest link. So weakest link has to be empowered. You need vibrant demography. There is a demographic kind of flux, I would say minor upheaval, which is taking place in the world. This pandemic has flagged it even further because aging population is more vulnerable. Like the number of casualties in Italy in initial phase were because there was Italy is caught in what is called a geriatric trap. That there are few countries in the world where the population distribution is such that the younger population or the working hands are scarce, and there are larger number of people who are in the higher age bracket. And which are those countries? One which is most skewed is Italy, of course. Then there are countries like Germany, Japan even. But it's not as if casualties were high in Japan or Germany. So if there is a good public health system, it's not as if demographic challenges can't be taken care of. But challenges are building up. These countries are creating a vacuum, a suction effect. They need working hands. And working hands have to come from countries which have surplus young population, working hands, surplus. So which are those countries? There are countries like India, Bangladesh, Pakistan, Indonesia, and generally countries in Southeast Asia have this kind of advantage. Even some countries in Africa. But all those people who are aspiring to fill this vacuum will have to skill themselves. They'll have to upgrade themselves in terms of linguistics, in terms of cultural norms. Like if we take an example, India has signed an agreement with Japan to provide trained manpower. So that manpower Japan will accept only if people are trained to Japan's requirement, which is their culture, their language, their skills on which they are going to work, because most of these jobs are in terms of caregiving, elderly care of elders, paramedics, para-nursing, such like working hands, farm hands, machine hands. So facility with working those machines, that all has to be learned. Otherwise, this demographic thing can become a demographic disaster. So India has large amount of surplus population, and for us to become Atmanirbhar is not so difficult. And in next 3 odd decades, the situation is going to be in India's favor. Even China is beginning to now feel the pinch of one-child norm family. In China, because they went in for one-child norm, today there is certain amount of correction or certain amount of concern which has got raised. And China suddenly realized that elderly population is increasing. And when elderly population increases, there are twin challenges. Challenges of finding working hands and challenges of looking after those people, giving them social security, health care, and other care. And then our Prime Minister talked about demand, that societies have to uh, work on demand for their services and products. Like today, China is reached this level because it has managed to create a demand for its products. It has become the manufacturing capital of the world. And when we look at this concept of Atma Nirbhar, it will also be relevant to pause here and go back little into history. And it'll be a good idea to take the clock back to the earlier part of uh, say about 1940 or so, when the China came in, because most of the discussions today have become focused and indexed on Chinese rise. So in that period, China was a very basic agrarian kind of economy. It was later in 70s, in 1972-73, Henry Kissinger went to China, and that time the world was divided in two blocks, two superpowers, USA and Russia. And USA was at all costs trying to gain that hegemony over Russia. So there were great games were being played out. In Africa, there were large number of conflicts where proxy war was taking place. On one side was a group, like I was in Angola in Africa. The government was being run by MPLA, supported by Russians, and Americans and others were supporting UNITA. So like this, in almost all African countries which were having these problems, it was a proxy war taking place. Afghanistan saw it. So in this series, somewhere, Henry Kissinger came up with this concept that America should invest in China. And somehow, China will become a tool or a leverage to bring down Russia. And his core belief was that Chinese society, when it gets into manufacturing mode, it becomes capitalist. It will also move away from communism. That was his thesis. And based on that, Nixon and Kissinger linked China and America. And China had a wonderful prime minister that time. Mao era had just finished, and Deng Xiaoping had risen. He was nearly controlling all the instruments of power in China. He was a great thinker, and he came out with this concept: hide your shine, bide your time, don't sort of unnecessarily jump into others' problems, watch from sidelines and build your power. So China started following this, and helped by America, regulations of WTO and others were relaxed, and manufacturing shifted to China. And China leveraged. Uh, it was capitalist kind of manufacturing, but it was backed by authoritarian communist regime. So it found that magic formula and rose to become the manufacturing capital of the world. And also, almost all manufacturing chains got coupled with China. In that time, there was a famous book written by Thomas Friedman, a great American analyst, who came out with this concept of world is flat. He says that world is not round, it is flat. There'll be no obstacles. Business and commerce will flow. And he also came out with the concept of law of golden arches. Next time, if you look at any McDonald's product or any logo of McDonald's, you'll realize that their logo is arches. And arches are shaped into M. And they are in golden color. So golden arches, his concept was the countries which have McDonald's outlets are unlikely to go to war with each other. That was the concept he gave. Later, another person gave a concept called as law of Dell, and wherein he said that all those countries which are involved in manufacturing chain of Dell computer create dependency on each other and hence are unlikely to go to war with each other. That was the era of globalization. Everyone was linked with each other, and There was no concept of self-reliance. You want something, have it mass-produced in China and consume it. And similarly, make it in Bangladesh, something in India, software products, outsource, and get your work done. That was the problem. Now what happened? When this pandemic hit, there was sudden realization that world has become too dependent on China. Again, in Indian scriptures, there is a famous saying, Ati Sarvata Varjayate. Excess in any situation is forbidden, will lead to problems. Excess. If you have excess of chocolate, you'll end up having diabetes. So it's anything which is even good is going to. They say that what is good is also sinful. So there's a problem. So here, dependence on China had risen to such a level that suddenly there was a realization that China is now showing muscles. It is showing aggressive rise. So now the world has started recalibrating itself. And Trump, even before this pandemic, had already come out with a concept of America first. He had also pulled out of Pacific Partnership Agreement. He had also pulled out of NAFTA, which was North African Free Trade Agreement. He was also reducing his dependence on NATO. And in Europe, his involvement was reducing. He was also pulling out troops from all the conflict-prone areas like Afghanistan and Iraq, Syria. And he said he was very blunt to say that European nations have taken advantage of America. And they must pay and contribute for this. And see in this entire thing, when there are conflicts were taking place in Iraq, Iran, Syria, some parts, Kurds near Turkish border, in Africa, in Somalia and all, China was nowhere. China quietly watched, following the policy of Deng. You don't see Chinese soldiers deployed in any of these countries. Chinese are also conspicuous by their very low numbers in UN peacekeeping. They didn't take this. So suddenly there was this realization that people should fend for themselves. And decoupling of manufacturing chains started. Now, let's come to Indian context. And even before we come to an Indian context, globally there was a realization that China has managed to improvise, ape, and copy, clone, improve products of other countries and started giving their versions which are better. Like Chinese philosophy was ape, acquire, produce, export. And production was based on philosophy of imitation, copy. So imitation was also refined to an art, adaptive, creative, disruptive, that kind. So a product taken from outside, reverse engineered, improved, and then sold. That's why our statues that we were getting in India started having slanted eyes. It's not something against anybody, but they had their ways. And why? If India has a chance, India will also do it. I've got nothing against China on this issue. There's lots to learn from them. We'll be foolish if we do not learn from them. But somewhere, I also would like to say that it would have been good for China if they had not come to this path of aggressive rise. Because then you become bull in the China shop. And then Dragon Unleashed in South China Sea in something in Hong Kong, and now on India, on Sino-Indian border, is all led to this philosophy that let us decouple from China. After all, India at one stage was pharmacy's superpower. We used to make large amount of medicines. We still do. But when this pandemic broke out, we realized that India's 80% of APIs, active pharmaceutical ingredients, which are starters, catalysts to bulk produce the drugs, we were getting from China. You can make a tablet, but API is coming from China. So suddenly this realization has come in. And earlier we used to make all of them. But since China is giving cheap, because of cheap labor, dumping, subsidies, combination of all this. But you may blame them, but they have to do it to capture the market. So, you know, when this pandemic started, India was not even making sufficient number of masks, which is a basic thing. Personal protective equipment, ventilators. And is this a complex technology? No, sir, no. No, ma'am, no. Basically, India, from a stage where it did not have PPEs of its own, it initially was looking for some donations and all which came, is today the industry is worth 10,000 crores of PP. It's making 4.5 million PPs. They're being made in India because people have shown resilience. They basically, India has a large manufacturing of garments and textiles, hosiery. All that has got repackaged, reworked, and India is today the second biggest exporter of PPEs and masks. From a stage where we didn't have enough for ourselves, we have become the second biggest exporter. And same thing is started to happen in ventilators and other things. So India wants basically a bigger and more important part of global economy. And there is certain amount of strategic significance of things like APIs. If you increase your dependency beyond a certain level, then you will be held hostage at the time of crisis. Actually, when China started this problem on Indian border, the Chinese feeling was this only, that they'll bully through and India will just catapult or capitulate. Sorry, pardon me for a wrong phrase. India will capitulate. But India has shown resilience. India has reworked its manufacturing and other lines, and it needs to do more of it. And why India? All countries, all Southeast Asian countries. Some of our Southeast Asian friends are networked with us. I must place on record appreciation for people from Bangladesh, Indonesia, Vietnam, Cambodia, Kampuchea. These countries, in some sense, have done better than India. When manufacturing chains started moving out of China, who's taken the bulk? It's not India. It's Vietnam, it's Indonesia, and some even Bangladesh, and maybe Cambodia, Laos. So these countries are also showing resilience. There is this government has launched Rozgar or employment scheme with this. Government has also launched a special scheme for MSMEs, and government is looking at niche areas like solar is one field in which India has some head start. and India is emerging as it is leading that solar alliance also. So solar power, it's a clean power, ecologically very likable, very acceptable power. So India is looking at niche areas like solar power, toy manufacturing. It doesn't require too much of skill and gives employment to many people. So health products, so many such things. India is now beginning to look for carving out a kind of a space for itself. And there are green shoots of optimism. IIT Alumni Council has laid out a fund of 21,000 crore. It's largest fund for startups. There is also defense manufacturing is also being given push. India has also decided to ban large number of apps, TikTok and all this, because we can make our own. It was just a convenience and getting dependent on a product. Or see, the concept of banning is also based on this fact that today data is the new oil of the world. Everything, like we are communicating on this link, which is the data link. So then who controls the data? There are concepts of data sovereignty, data localization. Okay, we are using Zoom, but then this Zoom should have data in India. And my personal data should not be accessible without some kind of concurrence from me. So where are the servers? Where will this data be kept? These are the issues which are coming. That's why these apps have been banned. And that's why we need to go in for data sovereignty, data democracy, and data localization. Data must be, the people whose data it is, they must have the control over that. Or they must be paid something, and the personal data should not be manipulated. Today, uh, you go to Amazon or you go to Flipkart, and you just search for a product. Like one day I searched for a T-shirt without collars. You know, for last 5 months, every day I get a couple of ads. My Google thing has been rearranged, and I I have no way to tell them that I have bought those T-shirts. I don't need the T-shirts. Till then somebody told me you start searching for some other. So then it will get rearranged. I don't do too much of this Flipkart business, but he gave me a wonderful idea. He says now you start looking for something else so that this gets overwritten to a new pattern. So the 5G network which India was looking for, because today everybody is moving towards 5G. We had Huawei, which was is a Chinese company. The problem in dealing with Chinese companies is there is a very thin line between Chinese private sector, so-called, or corporates, and the government. In any case, there is an omnibus agreement that whatever private sector has, government has the right over. In terms of patents, in terms of privacy, in terms of data. So if that be so, then the 5G network, if it was to come in, it would really imply that all that thing would be open or accessible to Chinese government, where it can be misused to a very large extent. So Europeans pulled out of 5G network. They are making their own. India has also told Huawei that we don't need your this thing. See, that's why my core philosophy or belief is that Chinese have jumped the gun. If they had carried on peacefully in a coexistence mode for another 20 years, we may have got, they may have got a better sort of this. Today, a whole new generation of Indians millennials who had forgotten 1962. Now, it'll be very difficult to obliterate this thing out of their mind. So you have lost a generation. One has to think in terms of soft power, which is not hard power alone will not work. You need soft power. The concept of vocal for local, what our Prime Minister said, make for world, local for global, and make in India for world. Now let me explain each of these. Vocal for local means you accept the local product. This year, large number of traditional lighting things which we call in India as diya. It's an earthen kind of a thing. These also had started coming from China. And fancy lights and all this. This year, very large quantity, by very large, about nearly 99% was local, made out of cow dung. So these things are catching on. And today, see, earlier we went to markets and people very proudly displayed China market. In India, it was quite a thing to say China market. People thought we will buy Chinese product. It's very nice to use. It's fancy. It's easy to use. It's got some certain amount of gizmo effect. But today, I have seen on media. I have not seen personally. They have replaced those banners by India market, and people are saying, people are suo moto declaring that in my store nothing is made from China. So that's the push for local. India is also thinking, see, now, if everybody starts only making for themselves, can this world succeed? There's a question. Is it possible to live in silos? But dependency beyond a stage is dangerous. When India tries to become once again the pharmacy capital of the world, it is now shifting manufacturing of API to India. From 80%, it has come down to about 60% in last about 7, 8, or 9 months. But it will take at least 4, 5 years to become totally self-reliant in this. Because it's not like an electric switch on off. It's not that discrete. It is not analogous. It is digital. You have to, it takes time. And that is where there is a need for patience. There is a need for certain amount of collaboration, despite whatever border situation we have. And there is a need for subtle development in these fields. Ideally, we will like to make for world. We will have local for global. People take our products and use them and make in India for world. That's the kind of philosophy our Prime Minister laid out. Actually, these farm bills were also part of those kind of reforms. Somewhere communication failure has taken place, and now we are caught in a agitation. But a lot of people ask me this question when I address some students not students, really professors in Punjab University. They're having a foundation program that in a society which is unequal, say we have Ambani, we have Adani, rich people, and we have poor people. How much is self-reliance good or this thing? Shouldn't surplus of rich people come to poor? If everybody thought in a selfish manner, how will this world work or India work? Well, my answer to them is that the self-reliance has to be in, it's not a very individual concept. It's a concept for societies. India needs to be self-reliant. After all, wheat and rice is grown largely in Punjab, Haryana, Madhya Pradesh, wheat, and some parts of UP. But then it is supplied. Climatically, it is possible to do that. So we need to be self-reliant as a nation, as a society, as a region, ideally, and that will also help the ecology. That will also cut down the transportation costs, reduce vulnerabilities, because communications can get snapped. You've seen cyclones, floods, earthquakes, and then you have to somehow reach the succor and relief to those people. That part can be obviated if we are localized and self-reliant in our own societies, regions, and provinces. We have to build this. So I see that I have been going on for about 35-40 minutes. So I'll take a pause here. And if there are any questions people want to ask, or if Dr. Gulshan wants to put in, because I may not have covered many issues. It's a huge, big subject. It's an evolving subject. So if there's anything where he can help me to steer our discussion in that direction, I'll pause for that.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much. Actually, there's a lot to take: economy, infrastructure, demand, system, democracy, all that point well taken, sir. Now, there's something very important which comes to my mind. In economy like India, in society like India, like you have in Singapore, like you have in Korea, like you have in many countries, people those have to take up a government job, or for that matter, even the youth, they got to take some army training or they got to serve in the army for some time. Can we have that kind of a mechanism in India, sir? I personally feel if we can work out something, okay, fine. We can enhance the NCC seats more in schools, colleges, universities, institutions. We can have NSS. We can have some more, because somewhere we got to develop an ecosystem. What is happening, sir? I'll take a small example, sir. uh, the entire system revolves around education, because all the time I come back to education, making education relevant. Let's take, there is a university and there are five people coming out of a particular university, and two of them they are joining a particular area and three of them they are joining the corporate sector. Now, the two, those are joining the education fraternity or that ecosystem, their salary, their monthly package, as compared to those three vis-a-vis, those are joining the corporate sector. There's a skyrocketing rocketing gap between both, sir. Now, I do not know how the nation to be built, because you are the one who is a decorated soldier who served for that long. Is there a solution that we can bring some more national spirit, and we can bring a little bit more kind of I don't know, when you say Atma Nirbhar Bharat, there has to be a patriotic and there has to be a little bit of nation building in that respect also.
See,
Everything is becoming materialistic. Everything is becoming materialistic.
uh, Dr. Gulshan, uh, the let's look at the brass tacks of Indian security system. We
Sir,
have an army which is 1.3 million, now,
sir.
1.3, 1.4.
Hmm.
We have an NCC which is also around now getting to about 1.5. It is
Yes.
becoming 15 lakhs or so.
Hmm.
Besides army, we have CAPFs, police, and such like security kind of structures. But with NCC, beyond NCC, we have NSS, which is
Hmm.
around 8 lakhs or so.
Hmm.
We also have Nehru Yuvak Kendra.
Hmm.
We have Bharat Scouts and Guides.
Hmm.
We have in certain states like Haryana, but it's not succeeded too much, police cadets scheme.
Hmm.
We have marine cadets, and there are few other things like that. Now, uh, can army absorb all who put in, or can army have a system that, see, China follows the system of conscription, but conscript armies are not professional, because you come for a term of 3 years or 4 years at the most. Now it's a relay race, and there are certain trades, though China has people for longer tenures in those trades, like communications and mechanic, and you have yourself been in army, you would have seen, where a tenure of 3-4 months, 3-4 years is hardly enough to make you an expert in that. And war has no runners. You need to be an expert in your discipline. See, when we fought 65 war with Pakistan, Pakistan had at that time the world's best tanks, veteran tanks, M48, straight away imported from America. Now those tanks had coincidence rangefinders, which were based on focusing of mirrors. India had old, obsolete Centurion tanks, smaller in caliber, old, obsolete nearly. But we managed to defeat Pakistan. How? Because our crews had been trained well on Centurions. So they worked out something called as Indian Jugaad. You said add one, or correction, drop one, add half, something like this you did, which meant that you fire 3 rounds without even checking the range. And in those 3 rounds, you'll get a sure kill. And a Pakistani chap was still fumbling and fiddling his mirrors. There's no second chance. By the time he sets his mirrors, he's been knocked out. Then he can do it in Jannat or Tozak, wherever he goes. He can keep fiddling those mirrors. But here he's been written off. So I personally, I am not very much in favor of a conscription or of a system where army has everybody coming and playing a relay race, tu chal mein aaya type of situation. It will not be. It will not bring in expertise.
Sir,
But I take your point. I accept your point to that extent.
I'll
That
read.
we need to have certain amount of national sort of fervor or certain amount of national spirit. So how do we do? Well, it's very not so difficult. We can have a concept of citizen army, Nagrik Yodha. Every citizen becomes a warrior. Warrior doesn't mean you have to wear uniform and start marching left, right, and center. It's a code of conduct. You follow that. Everybody is a conscious and aware Indian. What I call a Jagruk Hindustan. You do your work properly. You do your duty properly. Now, India also needs nerds. Now. You can't say, I want everybody to sit in Savdhan and this thing. If we don't have nerds, how will we have these wonderful software programs? I know of nerds who get up at a particular time, who have a long hair, who don't take a bath for 4 days. In army, they will get thrown out. But he's a national asset. He's working out hacking programs. He's working out when you see that man, you feel a little put off. Yaar, how's this guy? But then his idiosyncrasy is his strength. He can work, his mind works in those directions. So we need to nurture all kind of talents in my list. And I also have one small caution also to young people. There is this fervor, this newfound thing. How's the Josh? How's the Josh? And everybody say, hi, sir. Hi, sir. Now, I'm sorry, but I like to say we need to have house host. We need to have control over our emotional quotient, our faculties, because we have to do a lot of thinking. Indians are known for their software, service, thinking skills. And see, like India, a part of India is hospitality. Atiti Devo Bhav. The guest is my God. That's how we have been trained. Now imagine if in army I had a JCO. I went to JCO's mess one day. Now we go once in a year to JCO's mess, where these junior commissioned officers have of their mess. So he's now telling me that I must have a glass of beer. He's telling me, beer nahi pee rahe ho saab, पीना पड़ेगा साहब, beer पियो साहब. So you don't know if he's requesting you, he's pleading with you, or he's ordering you, or he's bullshitting you. It's not his fault. Culturally, he's not been trained to be polite. His only thing he's learned is pina padega. He can say it like this only. Probably he tells his wife also like that. So culturally, we will have to, in my perception, nurture all skills. Those who are soldiers, train them well. Give a flavor of national service through school education, and also nurture those few guys who to you look to be off balance, off centric. In Hindi they say hila hua hai, but some of those guys are intelligent. They're sharp. Our country needs those guys. So we have diversity. We need all kinds.
I'll just repackage, sir. I'll just repackage. Why I'm touched, why I'm telling you is this. I was not telling that they should take it as a career. It is basically to bring some mental robustness about a 6 months or so. Everybody got to be put into the process. Why did I say, sir? Because with education, if you build somewhere a national feeling or national perspective, something, you must have come to know, sir, that one of the boy who was doing PhD abroad, 4 times he was put on the board and he was taken down from the flight. And when he was taken down from the flight, after fourth time, he has committed suicide during this pandemic. Indian boy, he was abroad, he was to come back to India, but he was taken down from the flight 4 times. He could not take, there is no mental robustness. I'm taking it from that point of view, sir. Right from 25th of March, I have been going out every day and distributing the ration, meeting the children, meeting the youth, meeting the students, meeting everybody, in spite of everybody telling, why are you going out at this age? Don't go. Come on. You stay back. But mentally, when you are tough, I think your body physically follows very well, sir. I was taking, and in the coming times, we got to give this perspective to children. There are no jobs. They got to be prepared for entrepreneurship, startup, stand up, self-employment, and rather taking a job from somewhere. So maybe in the run, could there be a system? About 6 months, they are given some mental toughness. They're built somewhere robustness, and they say, wow, this is what India is. And I personally feel, sir, our body physically follows when we are mentally tough. You got to be mentally tough, sir. A lot of youngsters.
I fully accept that. Actually, the suicide of Sushant Singh Rajput
Sir,
and few others have brought this issue into limelight, that we need to bring it out of the closet. Counseling, mental health, these are very life challenges today. And in India, once you go to a counselor, you are dubbed as a mad guy. You're like, when we were growing up, I have a younger brother who was studying surgery. And there was somebody with the same name. My brother's name is Paramjeet. There was another Paramjeet who was studying psychiatry. So one person came to our house and he started talking to my brother. And he's telling him all about his mental distress and all. So my brother told him, it appears that you have mistaken me for my namesake, I am Paramjit, who's training to be a surgeon. So his immediate reaction was, अच्छा अच्छा, तो आप तो ठीक वाले परमजीत हैं. You are the correct or the balanced Paramjit, because obviously he means the other guy is off his rockers. So in our country, even the guys who are treating people in the discipline of psychiatry are not taken too kindly. The people say they are the guys who are off their balance. So unfortunately, Dr. Gulshan has and flagged a very correct thing, which unfortunately in our country has not received due attention. And after this pandemic, there will be a sharp rise in mental problems. Like he's flagging, jobs are not going to come easily. Manufacturing chains have got destroyed. Migrant labor has gone. By the time it builds confidence, comes back, in any case, we are getting into silos. People in Maharashtra are fighting with Biharis are fighting, and we are not maturing too. So we are worried on these accounts. So there is a need. There is definitely a need to have professional counselors. Schools are supposed to also have them.
Yes.
And also informal counselor.
Yes,
something
sir.
like what Dr. Gulshan is doing. That suo moto, at least don't start treating them, but start helping them and guide them to the correct treatment if somebody has to take. Because this is a life challenge. This is a very serious life challenge.
Thank you, sir. Thanks for sparing your most valuable time. It's always a pleasure to have you with us. And I'm recalling and I'm recollecting when the pandemic started, we were together for the first session. And today, when we are coming out of it slowly and gradually, we are again together to share. And there's so much to take from you in this particular session. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, I would submit to all of you that in education ecosystem, all of us, to make India self-reliant, Atma Nirbhar Bharat, what Lieutenant General KJ Singh ji has touched so elaborately, so much into details, every segment he has taken in a practical way. I think our youth, our teachers, our educators, our counselors, our trainers, whosoever is in the education ecosystem, whether in schools or colleges or universities or polytechnics or ITIs or skill centers, wherever you are, start giving some mental robustness also to children besides your curriculum, besides your subjects. Don't just bother and be worried all the time to finish the syllabi. I think it's also needed. You got to do a hand holding. You got to see emotionally checked. Everything is fine. Your teachers, your staff, your students. That is also very important. Sir touched one of the station. I don't want to repeat that. That particular place has got very less population. But please go through Ministry of Labor, Employment, Government of India statistics. That state, there are so many youngster suicidal cases. We are to give toughness, mental toughness to the children. Then what? If anything is lost, still you will rise, you will get up and you will start. So Atmanirbhar Bharat from Lieutenant General KJ sir this afternoon. Wonderful thought process. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, sir. Very kind of you to give me this opportunity.
Thanks for sparing your time, sir. Look forward to yet